Here I am to bring some Passover vibes to you, also this way. Take a look at that. So this is a huge box of matzah bread I bought from my supermarket, and this is what nearly everyone in Israel is doing nowadays. Even if you're not an observant Jew, you probably would want to eat matzah, and you will be obliged to eat matzah, at least in some places. So this is it. This is the matzah bread, one of the attributes of Pesach or Passover. And now I'm going to launch the video, turn off the lights, and we will begin what happens to sponsorship tours on the 11th of April. So, well, obviously, in April, your subscription is going to work the same way. So if you're if you've chosen not a one-time payment, but like monthly sponsorship, so it's going to be withdrawn from your account the money that you just the amount of money you've chosen for sponsorship, and then after April, it's just not going to be working anymore. That's basically what the HeyGo tells us. But the videos are going to be available for you for good. That's it. So you will have access to that. Those who have access to that secret playlist, you will have it. And anyone can join sponsorship up until April 11th, and we'll get the access to that to those videos. I think there are more than 60 videos, 60 or 70 videos now available for sponsors. And my son actually said, "Mama, you cannot eat matzah before April 5th." But actually, people can do it before April 5th. But my son said no, so I'm still waiting impatiently to be able to eat matzah. And well, just by way of promotion. You see, I'm drinking Vysotsky tea. If you want to know more about this tea brand and interesting history behind it, please feel free to join my collaboration with Olga, Odessa Walks Guide. In the end of next week, I think it's going to be the 7th of April, we are going to run again for the second time and the last time on HeyGo, our collaboration on the Trotsky, Vysotsky, and Brodsky family history. Could you show the matzah box and peer over it once more? I will do it in the end, okay, Fraser? Just remind me, and I will do it in the end. But now let's just get down to the tour. And thank you so much, everyone, for your interest in joining. And just in case, there's going to be one more round of this tour in the end of next week. Let's say a Shabbat-friendly version because there's still Shabbat, I believe, in some areas of the world, maybe. And also the tour that I did an hour ago about the museum, about the history of Jewish diaspora, the museum exhibition. I'm also going to give it just one more go. Please feel free to check out my channel on HeyGo. And I've just added 2 more tours, new tours, that I actually didn't plan to run, but since HeyGo is going down, I want to make sure more people catch up with it, because I don't know what happens next. Definitely, I'll carry on with the tours, but it might take me some time to figure out how to do that. I'm here to provide the comments, but basically this is me and Rebbe Liberman again. He actually sends his love to all of you. And well, Rebbe Liberman was going to talk about very, very deep meanings and many, many layers, multiple layers of what Pesach is about. But so Pesach is the holiday. It's one of the great also pilgrimage holidays in the Jewish calendar. It commemorates the Exodus. So the Exodus from slavery in Egypt of the Jewish people, and they spent 40 years in the desert before they returned to the Holy Land. And it's about a commemoration of the hardships and the celebration and the acknowledgement and appreciation of the freedom and independence. So basically, it's a sort of a Jewish Independence Day in a way. So this is again, obviously, many of you can now probably, how many in the song, like, let my people go, right? So it's, yes, so many miracles that happened in the desert. And we're going to talk about what the life was like for the Jews in the desert for 40 years. And we're going to talk about Moses, of course. And we're going to talk about some deeper meanings and understanding of what Pesach is, because like you can very easily look up like what Pesach is about and some basic traditions, but only a rabbi can explain you what's behind it, what actually deeper meanings of it. So that's why
hello, how are you? See, Pesach is the Jewish Independence Day. It's the day of independence, the real Independence Day. But it's only the beginning of the Independence Day. During the night of Pesach, we have a 15-step process to bring about your individual independence. Because independence, according to the Torah, according to the Jewish perspective, is not physical independence, but it's a state of mind. It's a question of being really able to do what your real internal desires are. And they shouldn't be covered and fogged over by external desires that a person has. And the ability to reach this inner essence of a person is what the process of Pesach or Passover, which is really only a holiday of introduction to Shavuot, is all about. Okay, and let's try to understand it exactly. Because what is freedom? What does freedom really mean? What does freedom really mean? Well, freedom depends who you're talking to. If you take, the world is divided up into many different type of objects. There's inanimate objects. There's the vegetable kingdom, the world of vegetation. There's the animal kingdom. And then there's the world of humans. And freedom to each one of these different levels of existence is different. If you were to give for something that exists in the world of vegetation, if you give it a lot of water and a lot of sunshine and fine earth, and you remove from it all of the weeds or anything that imparts its growth, well, that's freedom for the vegetable kingdom. And something who lives in the animal kingdom needs room to roam and to run and to grow and have a lot of grass to eat and water to drink and sun to shine. Well, that's freedom for the horse, and that's freedom for the cat, and that's freedom for all the animals that are found in the in the animal kingdom. For a human, if you give to them what an animal has, that's not freedom. Freedom for a human is he has to have room for his mind to grow, for his visions to and dreams to materialize, and it has to be dreams that result of his most innermost desires that are not fogged over by external desires.
Yes, Robert.
If a person is stuck only in external desires, he never reaches his true internal self. And that's what Pesach is all about. It's the journey to find yourself. It's the journey to reach your real, intimate, and internal, and your own real essence. Because interestingly enough, if we live a Torah life, so a person who takes a look superficially from the outside can appear that there is a lot of rules and regulations and prohibitions that are placed on a person. He has to eat kosher, he has to keep the Shabbat. There are many different types of prohibitions that perhaps control a person. And then comes Pesach, the holiday of Passover, and there's even more prohibitions. You're not allowed to eat leavened bread. You're not allowed to do certain things and eat certain things. So
we will explain why you're not allowed to eat leavened bread. It will be explained.
there is more prohibitions. Is that freedom? That you make prohibitions and limitations on a person? And the answer is, depends what you call freedom. If you would like to be, the person is controlled by all of his desires and all of his wants and all of his animalistic drives, well, okay, if that's considered freedom, that's freedom. But that's just slavery to a very low level of existence. Freedom is that I am above all of these external drives that the person has, and this enables us to reveal our inner essence, who we really are. And for a Jew and for a person, the most important thing and the highest thing is to be able to develop a relationship with God and able to live for an existence which is higher than himself. Perhaps we'll try to explain that a little bit later. And that's the what the holiday of Passover is all about, is to leave all of these external drives and to try to find your real internal essence, what it's and you should live according to the will of God. You should live for a higher level of existence than you yourself. We can explain it. Take, for example, people play soccer. Is soccer a very limiting game that you're not allowed to touch the ball with your hands, so that it limits you? But the question is if it really limits you as a result of the fact that you cannot touch the ball with your hand. You have to develop other skills. You have to develop other systems. You have to develop other abilities that are found within you, that if you would use the external aspect of being able to touch the ball with your hands, like take, for example, when you want to learn how to drive and you want to use a car. But if you take a look at the car, you get a whole big book, and the book is full of all sorts of laws and regulations that tells you, oh, you're not allowed to drive too fast. You're not allowed to go against the rule. There's also, you're not going against the red light. There's all sorts of rules and regulations.
You're absolutely right. Thank you so much. Yes, Rebbe Liberman is, an amazing orator. Well, rabbis should have this, speech giving, should be really masters of all the speeches. This is true. And what I like about Rebbe Liberman, that he is able to provide very easy and interesting examples that can be understandable at any level. This is true.
Apparently limit you. The moment you step into the car, well, you got to tie yourself down, that you should be bound. And why is that so? You're right. I mean, it's much easier to go by bus. It's nothing. You don't have any problems. Just going in, you're free to do what you want. Oh, but I don't think people will choose a bus over a car, in spite of the fact that there's many more limitations and regulations now that you're driving the car, because these limitations and this framework that you put yourself into enable you to be able to be more focused and to reach a much higher level. Except you don't look at all of these limitations as limitations, but they enable us to be able to develop and build a very deep personal relationship with God, the creator of the world. That's the highest level that a person can aspire to reach. And in order to reach that level, he has to leave the physical things that curtail him and to reach a higher level of existence. And that's what Pesach is all about. Okay, Pesach means to jump, to make it jump. In order to make a jump, if I walk or if I run, one foot is always in the previous position where I was before, whether I crawl, whether I walk, whether I run. But if I jump, I leave completely my previous state of being, and I find myself now in a new place and a new level. That's what Pesach is all about, that we want to make a real change. And the night of Pesach, we go through, we make a Seder. A Seder is a very special, not only meal, but it's a 15-step process that enables a person to make this jump and change of a state of being.
And Seder, it actually means order. There is a very popular phrase like Kol tov, kol beseder. So beseder means like all right, everything is in order the way it should be. So, and it's the whole process, right? There's an order of things that should be done on the Seder night.
The exodus of Egypt, if you take a look at it only on the superficial level, okay, as one level of understanding. But if you understand that the exodus of Egypt isn't translated Egypt. It's called Mitzrayim. It's called limitations. It's called boundaries. It's called the ego. If you translate each time you take the word Egypt and you change it into the word limitations and boundaries and ego, and then you will have and you go through the entire story of the redemption of the Jewish people, you will have an entirely different perspective in understanding what we are celebrating, what we're trying to accomplish, and what happened to the Jewish people 3,335 years ago. It'll give you, and if you will look at the, so there's a special book that's called the Agadah Shel Pesach, and this is a very unique copy that has a commentary from the late Lubavitcher Rebbe, that he explains everything that there is. The Agadah Shel Pesach, the Agadah, that's read during the Seder night. That's the first Hebrew book that was printed 500 and so years ago. More commentaries and explanation and insight on the verses that are said during the night of Seder. More commentaries are on this book than any other Hebrew book, that there is thousands and thousands of levels of understanding of what this book is all about.
Happy birthday, Dorley. Yom Holedet Sameach.
Maimonides, in his book, describes that there's two levels of understanding the story of the exodus of Egypt, if you call it, but we call it the exodus of the land of limitation and the land of boundaries and the land of Mitzrayim. And that's what it means, or of Yetzarim, of desires. And here there are many different commentaries. You see many different books. You see some are made for children. This is for extremely small children that express the story of Pesach and all of the different customs and everything that there is found in the 10 plagues are expressed. And the eating of the matzah and the entire process of the Seder night. And then you have Haggadah for children that are a little bit older.
Thank you so much, Dorley. I think accent is probably the only thing amazing about my Hebrew. Dave, well, I find comments like that very inspiring. I believe these tours are super educational, regardless of how aware one is about Judaism and Jewish culture, if one is Jewish or not, religious or not, absolutely.
That also present, this is the burning of the chametz, and okay, this is how they did the Haggadah in the old country before the temple was destroyed. Here's this picture of a contemporary Seder Pesach, and the different levels of the of the Seder night. And these are for children. They're a little bit older, that they review the entire story of Pesach. And
it's important to also understand that the traditions, like this, the way a certain religious holiday is celebrated, these traditions would build up more often than not later. For example, the tradition of like the Passover Seder, it would form much later in diaspora, and it will be like all developed and interpreted by rabbis. Obviously in Torah, right, in the Tanakh, in those 24 sacred books altogether, of course there a lot is explained, but we have to understand that the modern day traditions and the way Judaism looks now, it's also ways of interpretations by rabbis who, well, basically are the wise men, right? So they're like in the interpretations of the Torah and commandments, it's all provided in Talmud, right? In the explanatory literature, right? And so it's not like once Jews left Egypt, they would say, okay, so right now let's do the Seder night, the Passover Seder, and we have this and that to commemorate things, because you will see later on that there is a lot, like the pain of many, and the pain and the heritage and the knowledge and memory of many other events that would be represented and appreciated and acknowledged and commemorated in these rituals.
You have for children that are even older.
No, it's not the same as in Russia, but in Hebrew, you actually, you do it backwards compared to English, right? So you would write from right to left. The books would begin from what let's say, the English speaking person would consider the end, with the only beginning. Yes.
Or even older. And once again, it goes through the entire story of
yes, Joanne.
Of Pesach. These are the 4 sons. And once again reviews the entire story of Pesach. And then you have the Aggadot, the big collection of Aggadot that there are for adults, that they have even deeper ideas and deeper understanding of the Pesach Seder.
Speaking of the changes, well, it's the whole thing in itself is probably the expression of the day that I'm using today. The Judaism, like, unless you actually get acquainted with this culture and you actually immerse in the culture and or you live in Israel, you don't really understand that it's like the parallel dimension. It's like the completely different lifestyle and life that goes just parallel to yours. And these worlds, they don't really overlap. Sometimes they cross, sometimes they don't. And it was a revelation to me like months ago when I moved to Israel. Really.
Deeper understanding of the Pesach Seder. And okay, these are in Hebrew.
Yes,
but you
Gregory.
can get them in English. You can get them in any language you would like.
So these are all different books about...
These are all the same book, all the Haggadah Shel Pesach, but they have different levels of commentary, different.
So there is a good question. As a linguist, I really feel like really replying right now. I'm sorry, Rebbe Liberman, for interrupting you. There is a reason, pretty mundane one. So back in the days, there was the reason. The question is there a reason why some would read left to right? Not some, we're talking about Judaism, talking about the Hebrew script. So back in the days, there was no inks. They would be cuneiform, chiseling in stone. And so it was just a lot more convenient to chisel from right to the left, because most those who would be chiseling would be right-handed, and then you just use the hammer with the right hand and hold the nail or something with your left hand, and then you would do it from right to left. Well, it's a lot more convenient than the other way, and that's one of the explanations, at least, that one can get.
Levels of explanation, different aspects of the Haggadah Shel Pesach. And so let's start with what Pesach is all about.
No, I haven't converted to Judaism, and I'm not planning to. No.
Number one, Pesach is associated with matzah. Okay, so here we have matzah. These are special kits of 3 matzot in every kit, because for the night of the Seder, for the night of the Pesach meal, we eat matzah. These are the round handmade matzot, like the original matzot were made when the Jewish people left Egypt.
I should tell you, this matzot, the matzot, it's plural for matzah. Well, they're quite expensive. There are 3 matzot in this box, and the box costs 30 shekels. Can you imagine that? It's quite expensive, like compared to the square ones, which is like the mass produced. But these are the most delicious ones. This is the matzah. I'm right even now I'm drooling.
The Torah, like the Bible tells us very clearly, that
you're a lucky Jess.
People see. Interestingly enough, we know that let's say the first Europeans came to the United States on the Mayflower. What did they eat? What did they do? What did they say? What were they dressed? We don't really know. But the Jewish people know what they ate when they left Egypt, when the Jewish people were originally began. And this is what they ate during their first meals as they left Egypt and while they were leaving Egypt. This is what they ate, this same very food that we eat every single year.
Clive, well, good for you. Lucky you are. So since I'm not a part of the community, maybe that's the reason I haven't been given any goodies. I just wanted to express my gratitude to Clive for an email of a huge support. Clive's message was among the first ones upon we learned about Hagel going down. Thank you so much, Clive. I never really had a chance to thank you properly, so thank you so much. Yeah, shmura matzah. So this is the traditional, the matzah that should be, but of course that should be consumed for Pesach, but not necessarily. So, like I have much cheaper ones. Yeah.
Secrets of the night of the Seder is the 4 questions. Perhaps you're familiar that in the Seder night, we make sure and try to prompt the children to ask questions, because freedom means that I can ask a question. To be able to ask is what God wants from us. We can question and we can try to understand every single aspect. There's just some professor, I forget his name right now, but he won a Nobel Prize. And he asked him, what was his secret to winning the Nobel Prize? He says his mother made him win the Nobel Prize. So he asked him, how is that? He says most mothers, when the child comes home from school, the mother asks him, what did you learn today? My mother never asked me, what did I learn today? But she always asked me, did I ask a good question today? To be able to train the child to question, to try to understand, to internalize that what he heard is the secret to being free, to revealing your most innermost self. And that's why the night of the Seder is based on questions. And in order to prompt the children to ask questions, so therefore we have this special structure of the Seder night, and it is built around the ka'ara. Okay, it's called ka'ara. Ka'ara.
What does it mean?
Okay, ka'ara means a plate, but it's not just a plain plate, as you can see. It's a special Seder plate. It's okay. There are different kinds. You see this example of a kara. You see this example of a kara.
Beautiful.
You can see, there's many different designs.
I like this one.
You can see this example of a kara, if you would like. Okay, this example of a kara. Seder means order. Seder means order. That we have a certain, like I told you, a 15-step process in order to reach complete liberation from our external state of being to reach a deeper internal state of being. That's what the night of the Seder is all about. You have this type of kara, different types of, and at home I have a different kind. But they're all basically the same. They're all basically the same. And so perhaps we can spend a little time to try to understand what there is on the kara.
Jess, I would say that Passover for those who observe, I mean, it's like a whole loads of work, like cleaning the house for Passover. I mean, we're going to mention it. Like, there's a whole lot of cleaning done for Pesach. It's like it takes weeks to do that. I mean, it's huge amount of work for sure.
It's what we call the Seder plate. The Seder plate. Okay, and if you can see here or here, they are basically the same. We'll try to understand what they are. If you take a look here on the left,
hi Karen.
Okay, we have what we have here: a shake bone, a piece of bone of meat, which cannot be used as an offering on the Beit HaMikdash, which could not be used as an offering in the temple. And that's why a piece of chicken wing, here it's a piece of chicken egg, here's looks like it's also a piece of chicken egg, because since it cannot be used as an offering on the temple, this is what we put on the Seder plate. There are other customs, and this is just to remember the fact that at one time we're still in a very, very difficult bondage, and we're still in a very difficult slavery. We're not free because the temple that existed during the time, which is part of the Jewish serving of Hashem, is non-existent at the moment. And
so this is what exactly I was referring to a few minutes ago, that the traditions of celebration of Pesach, such as Seder, they were not born once Moses took the Jews out of Egypt, right? Because at that time there hadn't been even a temple. It was still a long way to go before the first temple would be built by Solomon, then destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar, then built again, then rebuilt by Herod, that finally would be destroyed by the Romans. Yes. So as you see, it's a whole bunch of interpretations and allusions and links to many, many other events in the memory of the Jews.
Therefore, we have the shake bone. In addition, next to that, we have an egg, a hard-boiled egg. You see, the hard-boiled egg represents many different things. On one hand, it represents the fact that we're mourning, that we cannot do the Seder night as was prescribed by the Torah due to the fact that the temple is destroyed and we do not have a temple. In addition, an egg, if you notice, it is an egg is why an egg? Well, an egg is used to serve mourners, because an egg has no mouth, it has no beginning and no end. It's a round food. And similarly, a person who is mourning, he has no way to express his feeling and his emotion. He has no mouth. That's why an egg represents mourning. But another explanation is that an egg, just as you cook an egg, most foods, The longer you cook it, the softer it becomes. An egg, the more you cook it, the harder it becomes. Similarly, throughout the generations, the Jews have been oppressed and been cooked by many, many different nations. There isn't a country in Europe that is not saturated with Jewish blood. There's not a city of Europe that the Jews were not exiled in. Again and again during their 1,000 years of existence in Europe. And nevertheless, the Jews have become stronger and harder and better baked, just like an egg. What? Really well done. And they're able to cope and deal with many different type of adversity and challenges that we have in our day and age today. And
oh my goodness, Clive. Thank you so much for bringing this up. Yes, this is true. This is true. Well, Clive is allowed to say that.
There's another understanding about that.
Many can relate,
when
I believe.
When the egg is hatched, is that the end of the process? It's not the end of the process. It's really the beginning of a new process that a new chick is born and new life can span and come from it. Similarly, when we left Egypt, it wasn't the end of an entire state of being, but it was the beginning of something new, beginning of a new life, beginning of a new level of revelation that came, and that's what the egg symbolizes.
Crack me up.
That even though we left Egypt, but it's the beginning of the process that will only finish with the coming of Mashiach, of Messiah, when he comes speedily in our days. Okay. Next, we have Maror. Okay, which is or horseradish or romaine lettuce. Okay. And the idea of the romaine lettuce is that, all right, the idea of maror is a horseradish, which is a very, very bitter herb. Some people like it, but it's a very bitter herb. And it's to remind us of the bitterness that we had while we were in Egypt. What does that mean, that we have to remind ourselves of the bitterness while we were in Egypt? Because really, for the people who were in Egypt, they also had to eat maror. The final meal that they ate when they were in Egypt included maror, included horseradish. Well, why did they have to be reminded of the bitterness that they had in Egypt? They lived through it. Yeah. It's like, for example, somebody who lived through the Second World War and was persecuted by the Germans, like my father, whose mother was killed and the entire family was just killed out, and all of his... and everybody and all of his friends and were just, and he, thank God, was able to be saved. But on the whole, everybody was just persecuted and abused by the Germans during Second World War. So he says, okay, now eat a little bit of maror to remember those actions. He doesn't need maror. He didn't need to eat a little bit of horseradish. Or the horseradish, the most bitter of all horseradish, cannot come and compare to the bitterness of the existence in the concentration camps and the persecution that there was, not only by the Germans, by the Ukrainians, by all of the other, by the Polish, by all of the other people that joined the Germans in persecuting the Jewish people. You don't need maror, and similarly, then you don't need maror. But what the maror means, that there's a lot of bitterness sometimes in life. The bitterness in life, it has to be controlled. It has to be limited to this one action. It shouldn't just completely overtake your entire existence. It shouldn't overtake your entire being. These people who lived through the physical hell in this world, they were able to raise a wonderful generation of healthy people and healthy children, and were able to move further, able to move ahead. Part of liberation from the bitterness is not that you don't talk about it, not that you just forget about it. You have to know it. You have to remember it. You have to constantly remind yourself of what you went through, but it shouldn't take over your entire being. It shouldn't take over your entire personality. We too have many challenges in our life. Well, you have to know how to encapsulate it, put brackets around it.
Yes,
okay,
Jess.
we don't run away from it. We know it's there, but we have to get along with our life. That's why during the night of Seder, yes, we have the Morah. The Morah reminds us of the state of being. And that's why we eat the romaine lettuce. The romaine lettuce is not very bitter, but in the roots, in the origin, it's very bitter. Later, something sweet can develop from it. Something good can develop from the from the challenges that we have. And that's the secret of the charoset. The charoset, and here's a special charoset container that is made for the Seder night, is made out of ground up apples and ground up pears and ground up nuts and a little bit of wine. Some people put dates inside. It's a very, very sweet and tasteful mixture that is made. And it is there, and it looks like mortar, to remember the mortar that the Jews had to use while they were laying the bricks. And the question is, if the mortar, if it's there to remind us the mortar, the hard work of the bricklaying that the Jews did in Egypt, why is this the most sweetest and tasteful thing that there is on the Seder plate? It should also be very bitter and difficult and challenging. And the answer is because all of these challenges that we had are there in order to bring to us a higher level of existence. The challenges are only external. The challenges at the time of the challenge are very difficult, but the end, it brings us to another higher level of existence, a higher level of revelation, a deeper level of freedom. What do we say in English? If there's no pain, there's no gain. If you don't work hard, if there's no difficult challenge, then you have your daughter. And when you sit with her and tell her she has to do the homework from school, she says, oh, you're the worst mommy that there is in the entire class. Nobody else in the class has to do homework. Nobody else, their mother makes them, forces them to sit and to do all of this treacherous work when I come home from school. Everybody goes to the beach. Everybody could go outside and play. And you force me. But in a few years, God willing, when she'll want to establish her own home, she'll be very thankful for all the time and effort and limitations that you put upon her, because that enables her to reach a much deeper level and to lead a much higher level of life and existence than she could live if the mother doesn't know how to give her a proper education. So that's what the charoses is all about. Opposite the charoses, we have the karpas. The karpas is to remind us the tunic that Joseph received from his father and caused arguments and caused the breakdown of the family of Jacob.
So karpas, it can be either an onion or celery. you don't really translate that. And well, again, like there are interpretations and differences in the course of time, so this is just one of the differences. And just in case, here is the, well, not the whole, but a pretty, I would say, pretty cohesive and explanation, like the family tree of Abraham. And you can still you can see here, well, pretty much like they are the founding fathers, right, of all Jews. And so right now, Rebbe Liberman is going to explain us the conflict that happened between the brothers.
That they took Joseph and sold him into slavery. And just like the brothers took the tunic and dipped it into the blood.
So that's the story, right? So Joseph, who well, seemed to be the favorite, the favorite son, the favorite brother in the family. Though they were all humans, and though there was jealousy, and the brothers just decided to get rid of the favorite son, of the apple of the father's eye, and they just played the plot. They dipped the tunic in blood. They said that Joseph died, but then well, it turned out that he would be sold to slavery in Egypt. Later on, the family will reconcile, but that's the story.
Similarly, we take the karpas and we dip it into salt water to remind ourselves, just like the brothers dipped then the tunic. Similarly, we dip, and that's what caused animosity between the brothers, caused friction between the brothers, caused that Joseph should be sold as a slave down to Egypt, and brought about the entire eventual enslavement of the Jewish people at that time. This is what the Seder plate. And then once again, we have some more maror, and we have some more horseradish.
Okay, that's an interesting one. This is the 19th century Ukrainian lubok art. So lubok is sort of the folk art. It's intended to look a little bit primitive, but it basically shows already the tradition of the Seder Pesach in the Pale settlements in Ukraine. And if you're interested in well, many other traditions born in the diaspora, there's going to be one more go on the tour in the museum. If you haven't seen it, in St. Petersburg Ethnography Museum, there are 2 rooms. The exhibition of the life and the history of Jewish diaspora in the Russian Empire. And also my husband is running the series of tours about the history of Jewish diaspora from the Russian Empire times till modern day Russia. Again, yes, so we are from Russia, for those who are still not in the loop. And we left because of the war. But luckily, thanks to a very friendly community and understanding community, I'm still able to run tours about St. Petersburg. And well, this is not about even Russia. This is about the Jews. And the Russian Empire happened to be the country at some point with the biggest Jewish population. So there is a lot to talk about. So the previous episodes of my husband's series is available for sponsors, the recordings, but the museum tour will be available once again in the end of the next week. Thank you for sharing the link, Jess. Thank you so much. So once again, you see here, by the way, this is the image. I think I sourced it from Wikipedia. Again, so when it gets to well, the karpas, you see it's parsley. Sometimes it's mentioned it's celery. Normally parsley, right? Yes, but still some differences might apply. But that's sort of the traditional thing that it has.
Because this is our life. Our life is, we have one level of redemption, then what comes next? Then we have another level of enslavement. The person constantly grows, constantly is challenged, constantly tries to reach a different level. And that's why the holiday of Pesach is when we start counting the days to prepare us for the holiday of Shavuot, for the holiday of receiving of the Torah. Because just leaving Egypt means that we're a freed slave, but we haven't received a higher level of existence. A freed slave is what happened when we left Egypt, but we still remain slave to our desires.
Well, Lisa, there can be some differences, let's say, from the Sephardic Jews and Ashkenazi Jews, a bit different approach to the way Seder is done, to which food is considered chametz or not, like fermented food or not. But it doesn't really matter. So regardless of the differences, Judaism is like one. It's one of the same religion. Let's say we cannot say these Jews are more Jews than the other Jews. No, definitely not. No.
Our to all of our animalistic drives that are found within us. Our job is to be able to reach a higher level of existence, a higher level of being. Because God created the world, as we mentioned before, with 4 steps. There's the inanimate world, water. Then there's the vegetable kingdom, the world of vegetation. Then there's the animal kingdom. Then there's the world of humans. And each level constantly strives to reach a higher level of existence. The vegetable kingdom lives from what? It takes the water, it takes the earth, it takes the sunshine, and then it's able to grow. Then the water ceases to be water, but it becomes part of the vegetable. It's become elevated from the level of inanimate object to the world of vegetation. And then comes along the cow or the calf or the sheep, and it eats from the vegetable kingdom, and then it takes the grass that it ate or whatever it ate, and it elevates it to a higher level. This hand is made out of the bread and the fish and the meat that I ate last week. And if I act like a human, I take all of these levels of existence and have elevated them to a higher level of existence. And so what happens is each higher level eats that what exists on the lower level and raises it to a higher level. And the question is, who eats us, right? If we would like to reach a higher level of existence, I know we sometimes eat each other. That's not necessarily raising us to a higher level of existence. But a person, a human, can live for an ideal. He can live for a value. He can live for something which is higher and beyond himself. He can make that he himself is not the center of his existence and the center of his being, but an idea, an ideal, an action can elevate the person that he should become something which is higher and beyond himself. And that's the secret of the holiday of Pesach, and that's why it's the preparation for the holiday of Shavuot that we'll discuss at a later time. This that you say about cleaning your house,
right,
so
Lisa?
First the house is clean, and then the night before Pesach, we have this special kit of a feather, of a spoon, of a candle, with a special prayer that you use this kit, like you see, and you go through every single drawer, every single part of the house to make sure there's not even one iota of leavened bread found there. Okay, so we work so hard to remove the leavened bread from the house. Leavened bread can mean anything, from crackers, from pasta, from beer. All of this is produced from wheat or barley or any one of the grains that are prohibited. And so therefore we take that completely out of our possession, because the difference between the matzah that we saw be the unleavened bread and the leavened bread, they both have water, they both have flour, they're both baked in an oven, but there's one difference. The leavened bread is full of hot air. It has had the ability to rise and is able to go around, how do they say, with their nose up in the air. That's leavened bread. In order, the first level of redemption, the first level of change is you have to be a receptacle to be able to hear another story. Most of the Haggadah, most of the night is telling a story. Most people live in a particular story, but they live in their own story. And if they hear something that acknowledges, it confirms, agrees with their story, they're ready to hear it. But if they hear something which is different than their story, that changes their vision, they're not ready to hear the story. The night of Pesach, one of the secrets of being able to change is to be able to hear a different story, to understand a different perspective. That's why one of the instrumental and underlying ideas in the night of the elevation and redemption process is to be able to listen to a story, a different story than your story. And then you're able to grow and change and reach a new level. But in order to be able to hear another story, you have to squeeze out all of the hot air that is found within you. You have to, and that's represented by, if you saw, the very, very flat and narrow unleavened bread that does not rise, that has not risen. When the Jewish people left Egypt, it says that they had.
Thank you so much for saying this, Jess. You are very right. Thank you, Barbara. Lorna, you're so right. Exactly. Yes, Fraser.
Leave quickly. The reason they had to leave quickly, because God took them out of Egypt. It wasn't 100% in an internal change. Like to say you could take people out of Egypt, but not necessarily can you take the Egypt out of the people. You can take the person out of slavery, but you can't take the slave mentality out of a person. And that's a much more difficult process, and that's a much more difficult job. They had to leave immediately.
Wow,
when
Karen.
you have to, and that's why, that's right, and that's why they had to leave. But when God willing, when Mashiach comes, when the final redemption comes, we won't have to leave quickly. We'll be able to leave slowly, because we've already been working on trying to improve our character for all of these thousands of years of exile.
Lisa, definitely, I pass on all the information and then the feedback, if there is any feedback, like in the tour page, and of course, I also thank Rabbi, the community, because half of all the proceeds of this tour, as like every tour I've done with Rebbe Liberman, I actually donate to the construction of a synagogue. When I did the Purim tour, which, by the way, earned not really a lot, but, well, it happens, I actually showed the synagogue that is now being constructed. And upon receiving my payment, my March payment, I will be transferring the half of all the earnings to the construction of the synagogue and provide all the documents. And also, upon receiving my April payment from Hago, I don't know when it's done. It may be done in May, may be done in April. We don't know yet. I will also minus the Hago commission, which is 40%. The 30% I will transfer to the construction of the synagogue. So this is the way you can thank Rabbi for this very long and very elaborate talk.
We have enough internal change that we made for us to accompany us and to remain with us. Wine is something that enables us to reach a deeper level of our existence. I think we spoke a little bit about it, Purim, that when a person drinks wine, so what happens, that what he has within him suddenly becomes revealed. You see people, they get drunk and walk along the street and say all sorts of words because that's what their essence is. But we try to reveal.
Yes, he's an American.
Essence. See, there was once this person who came to Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he said, when he was young and he looked around the entire world, everything was green and luscious with flowers and plants. It was a wonderful world. But then he became a little bit older and he dug a little bit deeper. See, there's a lot of mud over there. There's a lot of filth and there's a lot of dirt all around. So the Lubavitcher Rebbe says, well, you got to dig a little bit deeper. And then you'll find diamonds and all sorts of precious stones and gold. And similarly, it's with people. Superficially, we have one level of existence. Then a little bit deeper, okay, we might find some mud. But the job and the objective is to reach even a deeper level of existence, to find the gold and the diamond that is really found within every single person. And that's what we try to do with saying L'chaim, with drinking the wine, to reach a deeper level of existence.
And speaking of wine, there is a tradition that everyone should have 4 glasses of wine filled to the brim. And that's quite a challenge, I should say, for some who are not that, alcohol resistant. It didn't work for me last year, really didn't. But of course, you can always substitute wine for the grape juice. That should be also kosher for Passover if you really want to follow the Seder. And so there's a whole thing about wine. Wine is a big part of of kashrut.
Seder night is like a relay race. You know what a relay race is? A relay race is when you run with a baton. And you run and you run, and then you finally give it to the next runner. And he has to run and run and run with the baton. And then he runs, and then he has to give it to the next runner. Similarly, the Jewish people are running generation after generation.
You can have more.
With our message that we receive on Mount Sinai from God. And we run, and it's not just a regular race. It's an obstacle course. Every generation after generation, with the difficulties and the obstacles and the problems that are in that generation. And we have to take this baton and give it over to the next generation, that they too should be able to run. And we're running generation after generation from giving the Torah on Mount Sinai till the coming of Mashiach with the third temple, God willing, quickly in our day. The night of Seder, well, in the relay race, there is the race, but there are times that are very emotional and very special. The time of when he gives the baton over to the next runner, and it could fall, and if he doesn't take it properly, then he'll lose valuable minutes in his race, might lose the race. Similarly, the night of Pesach is the time when we give over this baton is the word, over to the next generation of children and grandchildren, that they too should run with this valuable baton till they'll reach the coming of Mashiach speedily in our days.
So, this is basically it. And I told you I probably would overrun. So here I am, keeping the promises. So this is the huge box of matzot. Well, not the fancy ones, not the shmura matzah, right? But the cheaper ones. And I'm kind of already drooling, but my son says, no, mommy, you can't have it until the evening of the 5th of April. So I have to kind of wait. And I might actually buy a couple of shmura matzot as well. Well, we'll see. I don't know which actually photo you want to take, but yeah, that's the whole thing that I'm going to have, and I might probably buy some prunes. Okay, thank you for this very, very precious advice. So, um, obviously, you know about Hagel closing its operations on April 11th, which means that now all the guys are trying to connect with the audience, to find ways to connect with the audience, because the Facebook group that now has more than 11,000 members is going to be closed. It's a corporate group. So we are, like, as guides and hey goers, we're trying to find ways to stay connected. And I am now going to send once again the screenshot with all the contacts, with all the ways you can stay in touch with me. So let me go one by one. This is a screenshot because I cannot just copy and paste any text, any links. Like, there's no feature for me on my dashboard for it. There is no a button that would work this way. But you can save this photo as a screenshot, as a postcard, and you can not a postcard, but as a screenshot. You can save it, and you can later on use it to copy and paste it and stay connected with me in every way convenient to you. So we are now, guys, considering using YouTube for our streams. It's one of the options, as well as Zoom. But in order to do that, one needs to have 1,000 followers, 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So I have a YouTube channel. I need to brush some dust off it. And it has some videos about St. Petersburg. I was experimenting in the very early days of pandemic, and I found those are really fun videos to watch, by the way. So you might check it out. Also, in the very bottom of that image that I shared, there is a link to the new group that is now being done and been open today for the Hey Goers to join. It's called Live Virtually, so it's going to be the new big community group for the guides and the Hey Goers. And also there is a newsletter. I think it's the very bottom link. Karen, I have just shared, and I can share it again. This is the image. Can you see it now? I hope you can. It's just like we share every image on tour. So it just appears on the chat. I hope it works. Oh, okay. Yeah, good. And it's also on my Facebook page, but we just figured out, like with Leonie and some other guides, that it's also probably effective to show it on tour. So there's a question about PayPal. Normally, I would never bring up this option that there is a way to tip on the PayPal, because I believe that the platform needs its share. And you see that what's happening: lack of funding, lack of tipping. This is the reason why HeyGo is going to close down. So this is always an issue. And to me, it was never an issue paying 40%, almost half of all the earnings to HeyGo, because I always appreciated HeyGo and all the work that's been done. Yes, there is a link also to my YouTube channel in that screenshot, in that image that I have shared. So yes, for those who want to donate for this tour and want their share, want half of this to be donated to the construction of a synagogue. If you want to transfer through PayPal, just make sure you add a comment to it, okay? And then I will include it as well. But we have to appreciate HeyGo, and they did try a lot, but it cost like millions running such a platform. Yes, okay, so let me see if there is. So what is not working? Sorry, Dorle, I don't really understand. Well, like it's apparently seems to be working for Karen. Again, also one more option is just to friend me on Facebook and DM me, and I will at some point reply and send you all the links. So there's going to be one more run of this tour, like on a Shabbat friendly date. There's going to be 2 brand new tours that I scheduled today. This is the content I've been meaning to share in May, but since there's not going to be Hey Go in May, I want to take you to a studio of a local artist in Ashkelon. I once mentioned her in one of my earlier tours. It's a pure destiny. It's that we actually met and that we're having this tour. And there's one more tour. I think it's on Friday, but I'm not sure. I'm taking you to a very unusual museum that you don't probably expect to find in Israel, which is the Museum of Russian poet Alexander Pushkin, the poet of the Russian Empire, Russian language poet. This museum was founded by a Ukrainian writer and a journalist and an engineer, and it is in Ashkelon. This is the only museum to Alexander Pushkin in the Holy Land. Like, who would have thought? There's an interesting story. I met this man, this writer. We are friends now. I mean, there's so many things really to share, and I'm so bummed that this is just like happening, because for many of the guys on the platform like me, Hey-Go is the major source of income. We are on other platforms as well. You can find me on World Virtual Tour, on Beyonder, and hopefully soon some other platforms. Zoom is one of the options. So I will be informing everyone on my socials about that. We are still figuring things out. It's only the second day that we've known this, so we need some time to figure things out. Please make sure you follow the guys that you've been following and you want to keep on following. It really means a lot to us. And it's mean a lot to us to just stay in touch with you as well. Okay. Duncan agrees with you to give Hey-Go their person. Of course, things should be done fairly. Absolutely. It's business and Hey-Go needs to earn money. Yes, absolutely. And I am grateful to Hey-Go. So whatever happens next, I'm so grateful to Hey-Go for everything. Hey-Go has been with me through thick and thin in the worst times, and only thanks to Hey-Go I've been able to provide for my family, because at some point Hey-Go was the only source of income for me in the new country. It's getting better now, but anyway. So, and there's going to be a farewell tour on the 10th of April, and there's going to be one more tour for sponsors, just as a token of appreciation for a little bit extra support, a short get-together with sponsors on a separate date that I will schedule very, very soon. Thank you so much, Hadrian, for the tipping. Thank you so much, everybody, for the tipping. Yes, Hey-Go has been a lifesaver to so many of us. This is true. And I am convinced that virtual traveling can exist in the post-COVID world. It has opened so many more doors to everyone. It's just the way you probably figure out a business model, and also it's also a lesson for those who haven't tipped. Of course, reasons can be different for sure. Everyone has its circumstances, but this is probably one of the lessons to learn about what this freeloading can take to, unfortunately. But again, everybody has its reasons. This is true that everyone can tip each and every tour, but there are ways, there were ways, and there will be ways to, to thank, to acknowledge, to appreciate. Okay, so it's easy to criticize from the outside. This is true. So we have to be forgiving. We have to be understanding. Yes. Jesus, a gift for your birthday. Jesus, gift for my birthday. Dolly, I am very sorry. It's really, really bad timing. And the only thing that I wish we had been given more time and maybe a little bit of an advance warning. However, I also understand that it would have probably become the public knowledge the very minute Hey-Go informed the guides on it. That's why guides earned got this email 1 minute before hey goers would. So it is what it is. But I'm sure we'll find ways. I'm sure we'll find ways to stay connected and carry on with the tours. I will miss the whole thing, how it works, but I'm sure we will find ways. And I'm definitely not saying no to other platforms and virtual guiding for sure, especially while I still just studying desperately to get my license next year. Thank you so much, everyone. I don't want to take any more of your time on the weekend, regardless of wherever you are. Thank you for joining me, like 2 tours today. Thank you so much. So tomorrow is my husband's turn to take the floor, and nearly every day the next week up until the last day of Hego operations, I will be running different tours. Yeah, this will be it. Yes, so getting 1,000 followers, 1,000 subscribers on YouTube is essential for me to be able to stream on YouTube. Yes, this is true. This is true. Thank you so much, everyone. Please stay safe. Please be kind to yourself and everyone around you. And happy Easter to whom it may concern. Happy Passover. Ramadan Kareem as well. So it's just this year, like the 3 holidays of the 3 religions, they coincide, which is great. No, I actually didn't know about streaming after 50 followers. But I believe that I believe that monetizing requires 1,000. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yes. Thank you so much, and see you tomorrow and nearly every day of this week. Thank you for everything.